In this episode, we're going to cover 3 ways that you can make more money in your detailing business. We're going to cover 1, increasing your leads with sales and marketing, 2, increasing your efficiency, whether that's by yourself or with a helper, and then 3, actually hiring an employee to relieve some of that work from your hand as far as detailing so you can focus on other things. There's a lot of things we could talk about. There's a lot of ways to grow your business. We're going to focus on just these 3 so you can implement it into your business. And if you want to check out how we were able to grow our business by turning our websites into a customer generating machine, click the link down below and watch the training. This is what completely changed my business, where I went from a struggling detailer to a fully booked out detailer by optimizing my website in my local area. So people who were looking for a detailer would go to Google, search for a detailer, find my websites, read my content, and then give me a call. If you want to find out how I was able to do that, watch the training down below. Let's get started with this episode. All right, so let's cover the 3 ways to make more money. Now, these aren't all the ways to make more money, but these are just some key points that I'll highlight, and you'll be able to implement some of these, or at least one of these, into your business, or all 3 of them, depending on where you are. And I say these are just 3 examples because depending on where you are in your business or how much you're making or what your goals are or the services that you offer, these will look differently. So we're going to start with these 3 just to keep this this episode not too long. But that's going to be the 3 main buckets are going to be your, call it, marketing, sales to generate leads, your efficiency in terms of the process that you do, whether it's whether you're by yourself and you have the proper tools and products, or number 3, which is hiring help or getting a team or having a helper, because that in itself is a separate bucket, because what you do by yourself is far different than when you have a helper with you, and especially when you actually want to go and completely give off maybe your mobile unit to a crew. Those are completely different things. So let's get started with the first thing, and that's going to be the most, no matter where you are in your business, for the most part, if you want to go from $0 to $5,000 a month, $5,000 to $15,000 a month, $15,000 to $25,000 a month, $25,000 to $50,000 a month, you are going to need, for the most, I want to say most people are going to need more leads and book in more customers, flat out. Okay. Yes, you can talk about pricing, which that's a big thing. And I'll talk a little bit here about that, but that could be a whole different thing. But actually, for instance, if you wanted to make more money right now, assuming you have already pre-existing customers and you already have a lead flow coming into your business, another thing you can do is raise your prices. Now, when that happens, typically speaking, you are going to get a lower conversion of bookings because your pricing is higher, right? So I'm keeping things super general, but if you're charging $200 for a detail and you're booking in 60%, 80% of those customers, and you charge, you increase your prices to $300 for a detail, that close ratio might go down to maybe, by 10%, 15%, 20%, or it may not go down at all because your prices are so cheap and you're offering such a good value that it's still a no-brainer to go with you, right? If that's the case and nothing changes in your close ratio, like you're still booked out the same amount from increasing your prices by 10, 20, 30%, well, that means you can still raise them because you haven't met that threshold of you're too expensive yet, right? Like if nothing changes in your close ratio and you're getting the same amount of bookings and same amount of customers on your schedule per week, well, you can still raise your prices because you're not expensive yet, That doesn't mean you need to raise your prices. What I'm saying is that there's probably still room for you to raise your prices and you're still underquoting or underpricing your services, right? So pricing is a big deal. I'll leave it at that though, because again, I'll just stick to the 3 that I mentioned. So when you want to get more customers, when you want to make more money, no matter what phase you are, typically you're going to need more leads and more bookings. So that's going to be focusing on your marketing. Whether, again, if you want to check out the training, you can click the link down below. But that's going to be either, what I always advise, big picture thinking, is you want one form of organic leads and one form of paid leads. Okay. Now, paid leads, technically everything will be paid lead because there is some level of either money or time that equates to money, right? So let's say you go out and you pass, flyers at in your neighborhood. Well, you're not paying in terms of like you're not running ads, right? You're not running pay-per-click ads on Facebook or Instagram or Google, right? But there is still a cost associated to that. Now, the hard cost is going to be, the design, or if you make it in Canva, that'd be for free. And then the flyer itself, getting them printed for however much. I've never done it, but that's a cost. That's a fixed cost. And then what you technically don't pay for because it's your time, but your time has to go out there to pass those flyers to all those homes. And, does that, it might take you 30 minutes, might take you an hour, depending on how many houses and whatever you do. So that's, it's not hard, money that you're transacting for that, but it is your time. So in every form of marketing, there is some cost associated. So it's never 100% free. But in this terms, organic versus paid is organic would be for either social media, okay, or your website, specifically with search engine optimization. Now, those are two technically organic. They're not free, right? Because if you're posting content on social media, well, you can use your phone, but your phone, you pay your monthly bill on it. You might need a microphone, right? So there's a cost associated to that, as well as your time, right? Because you have to shoot the content, edit the content, publish the content, and keep on doing that over and over. Now, generally speaking, organic content will take longer to gain traction because it is organic, right? You are little by little building up your portfolio of content and building up views and getting better at creating content and understanding how the algorithm works and understanding your editing style and understanding what kind of content is better and works for you, right? So that takes a while, right? And with SEO, search engine optimization, it simply takes time for it to work, right? Like it might take 3 months, it might take 6 months, it might take 12 months, right? It might take between 3 to 9 to 12 months for you to get results. Okay. So those are slow. It's slow going. Now with social media, if you just know what you're doing and you know how to capitalize on content and you know already what to do, then yeah, you can gain traction faster because you know what to do. But I mean, oftentimes you're not going to know what to do because it's a new platform that you're getting into. So, that's going to, vary, but it's still going to take a while. And even with SEO, like if I've ranked as a side project, right? Not my main website, but side projects to prove that it doesn't take that long. Like you don't need to wait years in order for your website to work. I ranked 2 other websites in the detailing space, and those took, with minimal effort, it still took around 4 to 6 months to see minimal results. It's not like it's full on blast and like, oh my God, like they were getting calls left and right. No, but to the point where it started to get some level of lead and some level of phone calls, it still took 4 to 6 months. So, and that's me, granted, I was like half putting effort into that side project because it was just to rank it. It wasn't to like do anything with it. But even with that, it took 4 to 6 months and I knew exactly what I was doing, right? Yes, if I spent more time on it and I really committed all the way, it would be completely different in terms of the amount of leads that you get and how long, but just let's say off that, it still took 4 to 6 months, okay, to get some trickle of leads. So that's on the organic side, right? Where you're not specifically paying Google or Facebook or Instagram a set dollar amount or a monthly budget to show your ad to your potential customers, okay? And then you want to have a paid advertising form. You can do things like passing out flyers or I don't know, other things, or Yelp ads. Don't do that. I'm going to stick to specifically Google and Meta. Meta being owning Facebook and Instagram. Now, so you would want to combine an organic method, which is either your website, SEO, or social media. I would tend to lean on your website and social and SEO because that is a very proven, evergreen method of getting customers once you have it fully optimized. And then your paid ads, which is either Facebook or YouTube or Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, and then Google ads. Now, me being biased towards Google because if you're going to rank your website on the first page of Google with SEO, well, a very complementary thing to do is also run ads because then you can take up almost three spots on the front page, which is It could be the sponsored ad at the top of the page. That's one. You could be on the local 3-pack, right? Which is where it displays the map and your listing comes up. And then you could be on the organic list, which is underneath the map. Those links, that could be another spot. So you could be almost 3 spots on the first page of Google if you combine both your SEO and your website and then Google Ads. Now, with Google Ads or with paid ads, yes, you are spending money per month, right? You know, the more, assuming you are doing other things correctly, the more money you spend, the better results. Assuming your campaign is actually optimized and it's actually doing, like, you know what you're actually doing on the back end. If you're spending $300 a month, you'll get results. And if you're spending $900 a month, or call it $3,000 a month, you'll get different results. Again, assuming you are optimizing that campaign and you're not just throwing away money at some random keywords that will never turn to a lead, okay? But that way, if you're strictly just spending money on ads, which again, like if you're just getting started, you could start with ads, and then, whatever small budget you have, that will generate some leads and some customers. And on the side, also be optimizing or creating social media content or optimizing your website. Now, why that helps is because if you're solely just spending money on ads to acquire customers, your cost per lead or your cost per your acquisition of a customer is going to be it's going to be a lot higher because you are only paying for ads, right? So, like if you, like, let's say it costs you $50. I'm just making up numbers here. Let's say it costs you $50 to get a customer, right? Which, depending on the service, it's not that bad, right? If you're charging for a detail, let's say it's an $800 detail. Well, to spend $50 to get one customer, that's not bad at all. If you're looking at other services like lawn care or barbers, it's a little different because like the depending on what you charge or what services you do, you might have to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 services before you recoup that acquisition cost. Like if you're doing lawn care, and you charge, I don't know, let's say $100 a month. Like let's say you cut biweekly for 2 cuts, and your cost of for a customer is $100. Let's say, keep it super general. Well, then like that first month is free, not free, but like you don't recoup your costs until the next cut, right? Assuming they're doing the biweekly. If they're doing 1 cut a month and it's $50 per month because it's 1 cut, well, then now you have to wait 3 months to recoup your costs, right? Just keeping math super simple. So the problem with not the problem, but just the caveat, the nuisance with it is that if you are spending, and that's a random number, right? Depending on your market, your services, how, your close ratio, you might spend $100 or $150, right? And if you're not doing $800 details and you're doing a $200 detail, well, now you see how that's kind of backwards because you only have a $50 margin, not of profit, but of just the difference between what you paid and then what you're getting out of it, right? Because then you have to account for like how much, again, depending on the services, what tools and products you're using, or specifically the labor that you have against it, right? Because if it's just you, okay, like it's just you, right? But if you have employees and you actually have people on hourly rate and you actually have taxes and payroll and all that, okay, well now you're working backwards and you're not making any money because what you paid to get that customer versus what you're charging them isn't really equaling out. And if that customer comes back, then yes, now you're working in the black, and now it's like it's actually working. But if they don't come back to you, or if you don't upsell them other services, right, then you're kind of just really on the fine line. So when you're running ads and you also mix that in with organic marketing, right, where you're not, you're not paying to get those customers, so to speak, because there's still costs associated, but you're not paying for that lead, you're able to dilute your cost per customer, right? Because if let's say it costs you, $50 to get a customer that pays $200, but then on your website with your SEO, you get a customer as well, which you didn't pay for, right? It came organically through your website, and they also paid $200. Well, now naturally, since you didn't pay for this customer, it does help offset and dilute that customer cost because you paid $50 for this customer, but this other customer who paid the same amount of $200, you didn't spend any money on them, right? Again, like you didn't spend advertising costs on them. So now let's, you combine those now for a $400 detail, your average cost instead of 50 gets down to 25. Again, keeping math super simple, don't overcomplicate. I'm just trying to give you the idea of why it's good to have 2 methods, one paid and one organic, because it helps dilute your cost and you can just do more with that, right? Because if you spend $1,000 a day or a month, and all your leads just come through that platform, well, they're just going to be higher. Not only that though, if I don't know, what if Facebook or Instagram or Google Ads goes down for a couple of days, and what, do your leads just dry up? Or let's just say for whatever reason you're not managing your cash flow correctly and you run out of money to run ads, then what? So again, just made up example, but things could happen. You never know. Maybe the price of the cost per clicks go up more and more, and you could used to get X amount of customers with 1,000, but now you can only get you get 20% now, 20% less than what you did a few months ago. But now does that affect your schedule? I'm just throwing out examples there, but that's why it's always good to have one organic and one paid. Not that you can't just do paid, because that's also a very viable option, and not that you have to do both exactly at tandem at the exact same time. That doesn't have to happen, right? Like big picture, like long term, yes, you want two forms of marketing, right? But if the first 6 months, years, 3 years, like you're just running ads, that seems very doable, because that is a very doable option. That will work. And again, once you get more reviews, you get referrals, you get word of mouth, you get return customers. Like the same system will work in terms of like you start to build your customers and start to really grow your business. So anyways, we're gonna, you need customers. Those are the two forms, big picture of what we're talking about. Second one is going to be your efficiency. And again, so if you already have someone to help you, you can also mix this in, because the next one is hiring help. But these are going to kind of be the same, but they are separate in a way. Because if you are just a solo detailer, which most of us are, it's literally just finding things that you can do to increase your efficiency, right? If you could drop a 5-hour detail to a 4.5-hour detail, if you could drop a 4.5-hour detail to a 4-hour detail, if you could drop a 4-hour detail to a 3.5-hour detail, that's going to simply make you more money, because you're spending less on the vehicle. You're spending less time on the vehicle, which again, like you don't pass on those savings to the customer, because you were able to find new methods and new systems to finish a car faster at the same rate. So even though you don't increase your prices, but because you're more efficient and you're able to finish faster, your hourly rate and your earnings increase just because you're able to finish the car faster. So that's the goal, is to finish the car faster. Okay, it's running. I'm always scared that the podcast is not actually recording. So with that's, I can't, it's hard to give you advice when I have no idea what your systems are, but there's a lot of things you can do depending on the phase that you're in to increase your efficiency, whether it's, getting the right tools and products, whether it's doing the right steps in these services that you're offering, whether it's simply in the most basic form, it's simply moving faster, whether it's making sure you're sticking to the schedule to make sure you're going to turn the vehicle in on time to what you told the customer what time the vehicle was going to be done. So this can look in a lot of ways. I can't really spend much time on there, because it just, there's based on your budget, based on the services, based on your skill set, all these things will come into play. But this is a big one, because if you are stuck doing one way, thinking like, oh, well, like I'm good doing this, you're going to leave a lot of profits on the table, simply due to the fact that like you don't want to step out of your comfort zone, whether you don't want to learn something new, whether, this is just what you do and this is how it's been done. That's going to hold you back quite a bit, right? It is trial and error, because one car you're going to say, okay, well, let me try doing, the engine first instead of the headlights. Or let me try the headlights before the engine, right? It's going to be things like that of like, okay, let me knock out the interior first, then go to the exterior. Or, hey, let me try washing the door jambs and the seatbelts first, then let me do the interior. You're going to find, and these are some made up examples, right? You have to figure out what efficiency means to you and what that looks like. Because again, if you don't have an air compressor and a cleaning gun, well, getting those two things are going to help, right? And then let's say, you don't have an air hose reel and you're just like unwinding it every single time. Well, getting an air hose reel will speed up your efficiency. And if you're using a Bizzle Pro Heat to do, a full interior deep cleaning and shampooing all the carpeting material, well, that's pretty slow, because you can only do so much. It's a very weak machine. It's not made for a full interior. And then you upgrade to like an Aqua Pro Vac that's like $500, or like a Mighty 8070, which is $1,300. Well, those two will give you an increase in efficiency because you could just handle more. And if you choose the Mighty over the Aqua Pro bag, well, you get more power, more suction, more lift, more water storage, and you can do more, right? So there's so many things that you can do, right? Because even when we first purchased the HP60 Spider, we didn't like, and this was already when we had our Ram 1500. We didn't like how, like, we still have to refill quite a bit because we would do like maybe 2, maybe 3 interiors in a day. And it's like, oh man, we're refilling and filling up quite often. And that just slows us down. And then, we would bring the machine down. So I'd be like, okay, we don't like bring the machine down. We keep on having to refill. It's annoying moving the extractor around the vehicle. So it's like, okay, well, it'd be better if we have an extractor that can take maybe 10, 12, 15 gallons before we have to refill. It'd be great if we put this on a hose reel. That way we never have to bring the extractor down. And that's what we did. We purchased the PE500, which was $3,000, I think. And that one helped a lot because now we got rid of a lot of the problems that we had, right? Again, depending on where you are in your business, this will look different, but you have to look and you're going to have to just see and test and try different methods that will increase your efficiency so you can knock down the time that it takes you to do an interior, right? Like as simple as like, if you're using, like for the exterior, if you're simply using, an all-purpose cleaner to clean like most of your wheels, well, just simply using acid wheel cleaner to clean the wheels that actually need acid that are really dirty and caked on, that'll speed up your time, right? Like there's a lot of things you can do to speed up your efficiency. Like don't, and for sure, don't get stuck in the mentality of like, oh, this ASMR satisfying cleaning. That will slow you down. That hold you back. You trying to look satisfying. Now, maybe if you're specifically shooting a video and you're trying to get that type of content, I'll give you that, okay? Because it's for content, social media. That's how it works. But aside from that, no, like you can't have the mentality of being this ASMR satisfying, detail. If you're creating that kind of content where you're doing barn finds and you're not charging the customer and it's just for YouTube, you can do whatever you want. But running a business, charging customers, trying to be profitable, trying to grow your business, you can't have the mentality. So you have to stay away from that. The next one we'll talk about is hiring a team, getting a helper. Now, this is something that you really want to be careful with because there's a lot of people, not just detailers, there's a lot of people out there that love to say that they have a hardworking team or that they built their team. And then when you come to find out, like they're all contractors, okay? Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have seen detailers talk about where they have a team. They built a team that they're hands off because they have a team, but they're not employees. And that's a big difference because if you have an employee that's a W-2 employee that's on your payroll with your withholding state and whatever taxes that you have for that employee, that is a far different business than when you just have a contractor, which is a 1099 contractor, or you're just paying someone cash or you sell them after the fact because they helped you out, okay? Those are two different things. Now, most people are going to start with like, hey, brother, sister, friend, cousin, can you come help me out in detail and I'll pay you at the end of the day. Most of us are going to start out there. That's how I started like that. 2017, I hired my first helper, which is my cousin. And we did that for about like a year and a half, I believe. And at first I would just zell him the amount that we agreed upon, right? And then once I kept on asking him for help, that he just started working with me every day. And we were like, okay, well, instead of like sending you Zelle once every day, I'm just gonna what if we just pay you at the end of Friday, and I'll just like pay you hourly. It's not the right way, but like that's my cousin. Like we had agreed upon, it's not a big deal. So then every Friday I would send him the full amount, right? And then fast forward, and then we actually get an accountant, we set up payroll, whatever. And now we have people fill out the W form and the I-9 to set them up as a W-2 employee, I believe. And now they're actually on payroll and they get paid out every 2 weeks. And so having that kind of structure versus like I have contractors where it's not your team. You can't tell them what to do. You can't have team meetings with them. You can't, tell them to get here at 9 a.m. every day because they're contractors, right? And that's a distinctive difference because the cost of those two are completely different. But I digress. Most of us are gonna just start with a helper. You don't need to think about a W-2 employee and payroll on that. No, just literally like keep it super basic as I did when I first started getting help, and just pay them per day, right? I don't know what that means. You got to come up with that number in your area, on your services, how many hours, what they're going to help you with. Again, this can be like a 10-hour training on how to get how to get help with you, right? And it's going to come in varying levels, right? Because yeah, you can get a helper of your cousin that, they're tagging along with you, and they're going to vacuum, they're going to wipe down the interior, they're going to help you clean the wheels, wash the car. And it's still very easy to, not that it's easy, but like it's a lot more manageable because you're there with them the entire time, right? Like you're always going to be the best employee. You're always going to be the most efficient employee because you are the business owner and you've been doing this for 3 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that you know everything. You know all the products, you know all the chemicals, you know all the steps, you know all the methods, right? You will never find someone more efficient than you for the most part. And when you have your helper, like, well, you just kind of bring them along and say, hey, like, I'm gonna need you to vacuum this section. Can you do that? Okay, cool. I'm gonna go do that. Oh, you're done with that? Okay, well, now here's the chemicals, the brushes. Can you just clean this door panel? Very basic. And that's great. Like they still need training, right? When I was working with Anthony, like we were gonna start detailing on Monday. I asked him to come Sunday, the day before, so we can go over some basic things. Literally vacuum, cleaning a door panel and plastics, right? Using the all-purpose cleaners, scrub brush, towels, and I think maybe like cleaning wheels. It was maybe like an hour of like training that we did, but that was enough to like prep him because he was also good at working, right? It's not like you needed to baby him the entire time, but that in itself was good enough to where when we went out to the job site, like I was okay, hey, you're gonna focus, like don't worry about anything else, just focus on we're gonna vacuum and you're gonna clean the door panels. If you get past that, I'll go on to the next thing, but like, let's just get started with that. So, if it took, if it took him 20 minutes to do that, which I could probably do in like 5, if it took him 20 minutes to do that, because like, he's kind of slow and he's like, okay, trying to touch a few things up, I'll go do whatever else I can. And when I see that he's done, okay, now wipe down the door jambs, like dead simple things, wipe down the door jambs, right? And over time, like literally over time, okay, yeah, he gets cleaning door panels now. Okay, he gets cleaning door jambs. Okay, he gets cleaning seats now. Okay, hey, hop on the extractor now. Hey, can you actually clean the wheels? Oh, you know how to clean the wheel? Okay, let's start washing the vehicle. Hey, can you start cleaning now? So it was over time, right? So that itself is in a way of, it's gonna take your helper a while to like not just understand what they need to do, and also for yourself, like how to teach and what steps do you teach that helper. That way, it aligns with like what you can do. But then too, it's gonna take time for you to find your system with that person. Like if this is your first time detailing with someone, you have to find a system. You have to find what works between you and that person, based on the services, the tools and products that you have. Because ideally, like, oh, if we're gonna vacuum, ideally, not that you should, but like in the most ideal situation, there's 2 vacuums, there's 2 air hoses, there's 2 drills, there's 2 everything. That way, both of you can be working on one side. But in your setup, if you have just one vacuum, which most of us are, if you have, no air compressor, if you only have 1 drill, if you only have 1 set of brushes, well, there's only so much you can do, right? Which then again goes back to thinking about efficiency. Yeah, maybe you should go buy another set of brushes, go buy another drill, go buy, whatever else that makes sense to have sets of 2. That way 2 people can be working without like, okay, hey bro, go take the brushes, but once you're done there, give them to me because I gotta go clean that. That's gonna slow you down a lot, right? And from there, I will go to my next point, which again, these are kind of connected. But then when you actually want to have an employee that like has full responsibility of a car, like, hey, I'm working on this, I'm doing this paint correction up here. Can you knock out the interior detail? That's also a different level of detailing and like training, because that person now has to know the entire system on what to do. Okay. And what's even more difficult is, and this is, if you want to send that employee or that crew, like 2 people out in the van by themselves with no oversight to a job site to do everything themselves, right? Like talk to the customer, greet the customer, go over the detail with the customer, perform the detail, make sure it gets done right, make sure everything is documented, call out the customer, accept payment, go over the details, make sure they're happy, come back to the shop or to the home garage. Those are two different levels of businesses because the amount of training and leadership you need and trust and things like for them to go out on your behalf is totally different than when you're able to be there. So hiring a team, although or when I say team, let's say helper, right? Let's say you have and don't think they have to be full time, right? They help you 20 hours a week. But if you're trying to give them more responsibility of like, hey, you knock out this car or you're going to go out to the job site and do that while I stay at the home garage and do some details, that's two separate types of businesses, of training, of employees that you have to focus on, right? The hardest thing you do, one of the hardest things that you do in your business is hiring and training. Those two things will be one of the most difficult things that you do because when you're working by yourself, you know you're the best employee. You know everything. You know the systems. You know the methods. You know the pricing. You've worked on multiple types of vehicles and conditions and services, right? You know that the job needs to get done today. You are the best employee. So you can do everything yourself. You can work faster. You can work a little more. You can not make as much money as you should have because it's your time, right? There's no other labor to it. But when you have an actual employee where you want to give them that responsibility, like you need to make sure that you have systems in place that they can get trained on. They have to know the exact methods and systems and chemicals and products to get it. And not that it's difficult, right? Like the actual action of extracting a seat or washing a car is not difficult. But when you're trying to do that in an actual systemized business to where they can perform that service day in and day out without callbacks, without customers being upset, while still withholding quality to your standard, that is very difficult. But when you do that, that's when you can start to grow. Like grow past wherever you are, right? Because, if you're making $6,000, $8,000 a month, well, you only need a part-time worker and like you'll still do most of the work. But once you're actually trying to grow and pass some threshold, whatever that means for you, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, well then yeah, at that point, like you are gonna be hands off on details, right? It doesn't mean you're like, oh, I'm sitting back in my office and like everyone else is going out to detail. That's not happening, right? Like if you're at what 15, 20,000 a month, that's still not happening. You still need to be not hands on in terms of literally you're on the customer's vehicle, which at that point you still shoot, right? Like that, if you stop detailing, you become a full cost to your business, right? The most important people in your business are the revenue producing, right? Which means everyone that's actually has their hands on cars because that's directly connected to revenue. If you all of a sudden just stop working and you're just taking a salary or whatever that is, and you're not working on cars, well, you just increased your cost to the business and you decrease your efficiency because again, you're the best employee. Like you were out there working, helping get those cars out, booking more jobs. By you stepping out of that when you're barely making 15, 20,000, you just added a huge expense to your business and you lost revenue because you can't book as much, right? Even then, like you need to be out there overseeing the details, making sure they're getting done right, quality control. But again, like don't get too ahead of yourself. The first phase is efficiency by yourself or with a helper. And then 2, like at some point, if you want to keep on growing, you need an employee because you can't do everything yourself. Like you simply just can't do that, right? You'll still do everything. Like when you hire one full-time or just you get an employee, right? You still do a lot of the things yourself, but at least you're not doing all the details because then now you have a bit more time to answer phone calls. You have a bit more time to respond to emails. You have a bit more time to work on marketing. And that's how it works. Like you're still going to do a lot of the detailing, which you should. Like you should still do most of the detailing, but you will get some of your time back to be able to book in more jobs, more customers, and again, make more money. But don't forget, this is just one little glimpse, one little example of how to make more money. Like you can go with this in so many directions in terms of how to make money. And one thing that I mentioned in the on Instagram, I was like for the longest, I was so not against, but I was always saying no to franchising. Just because like that's just not something that crossed my mind. But as of maybe over the last 3 months, I've opened the mind to like franchising. Not that I'm gonna do it anytime soon. But it's one of those things where like once you have a framework of what to do, you just repeat that process. Like again, going back to the first point of like, yeah, when you start your business, you need a form of marketing. But yeah, you would need your website and SEO and Google Ads or Facebook and Instagram, and that gets you customers. They need to be efficient, whether you're working by yourself or you have a helper, to knock out those leads and customers or those customers. And then you actually need to hire a team. That way you can actually keep on pushing and they can handle more and more of the details while you focus on the marketing or advertising or sales or closing more customers or calling customers back or sending out emails and invoices and all that stuff. So anyways, hopefully you took something away. Hopefully you can apply something into your business. Again, if you want to check out that training, click the link down below and watch it. It shows you how I turned my website into a customer generating machine. And I will talk to you guys on the next one.